Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about that win yesterday. First and foremost, the Lakers beat the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday in Memphis. That was one of their bigger wins, I would say, of the season. The final there was 134 to 127. So we'll recap that one briefly. Before that game, JJ Redick was speaking to local media and apparently told them, because in that one, John Morant was miraculously returning to the lineup for Memphis. JJ Redick said he had his analytics department look into our claims. When I say our, the show, Lakers Twitter, however you want to define it, our claims that that teams just somehow happen to get healthier against the Lakers. And it's been this thing that the rest of NBA Twitter kind of sort of mocked, but apparently we've been right. So suck it. Anyway, we'll also talk about another moment that took place on social media. Today, I just kind of, it wasn't even a thing that anyway, I launched a conversation, I guess, today on Twitter by asking what exactly Rob Pelinka has to do to win Executive of the Year. So we'll have that brief conversation as well. And then I want to leave as much room as I can to answer your guys' questions. So to those of you who are in the comment section already, hit me with some questions, hit me with some takes, and I will get to them on the latter half of the show. Quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button on your way in or on your way out, whatever you want to do. If you guys are listening to this in the audio form and you want to try to find the video form, that you can find it at youtube.com/@LakersLounge. And then if you guys are watching on Twitter, again, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. To subscribe to the show and make sure you don't miss any of these live streams. We have a busy week ahead of us. The Lakers have nothing but critical games basically from here on out. So we'll be in the lounge live to break those down. We also have some guests lined up. We're working on, I'll just come out and say it. We're working basically on having a regular set of guests who will come on at various days of the week. I have names in mind. I'm basically, I made the choice between doing something like that, having a regular cast of guests that we just cycle through every week, or having somebody to come here and do post-game shows with me. I made the choice that I can handle post-game shows, and we'll have those guests here on those off days, and occasionally on post game shows if it's a big enough game or given the situation or something like that. So keep an eye out for announcements on that front, as well as we actually do have some other show news. So one such weekly guest that we definitely have lined up is Lee Ellis. You remember him from the Starters and then the No Dung Sink crew. I've been listening to him from way back in the day when he was involved with what was then the Basketball Jones podcast. He and I were working on a show together called Basketball Passport, and it got churned up and spat out by the larger basketball podcast and general podcast industry. And I still wanted to continue to do shows with him. And we decided that, well, shoot, let's just bring back essentially The Hook. For those of you who remember that show, bring back The Hook. And he and I are basically going to record a Lakers-centric national NBA show with also a touch of that global spin that we enjoyed bringing to the table on Basketball Passport. So the first episode of that type will be Friday. And, the last episode of Basketball Passport was this last Friday. So I'm looking forward to that one. We also have some other exciting news here. Those of you who watch on YouTube know that Underdog got behind the show in its video form. You can see the UR code right there. Basically, they've been happy with the show and the way that we do things here, and are now backing the audio version of the show as well. So we will be doing segments that I don't have to separate from the video and audio form together. So I'm really happy to have a lot more synced in content there having to do with Underdog, which has been really fun. I've been really enjoying doing the picks. I'm not very good at them, but I enjoy doing them nonetheless. So we will we'll go ahead and as time goes on, introduce you to some of what that'll look like. And then I'll hold off on the other couple announcements here. But I've been telling you, we have some big news coming here, and it's right around the corner. So we've already dropped a couple of nuggets there, and basically, I'm going to have all of this solidified, I would imagine, before the playoffs, and you guys are gonna. If you guys are excited about those announcements, you guys are gonna be really, really excited about the other stuff that's right around the corner as well. But enough nasal gazing. Let's go ahead and navel gazing, like looking at my nose. Navel gazing. Enough of that. Let's go ahead and dive on in. We'll start with the Lakers beating the Grizzlies. Essentially, that game felt a lot like this.
Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself.
I love that movie so much. The Lakers beat the Memphis Grizzlies 134-127. The biggest, I think, note from this game was LeBron James scoring 25, Luka Doncic scoring 29, and Austin Reaves scoring 31. That's 85 points between the Lakers' big three. And I've been calling them a big three here for a long time. They also, by the way, had LeBron had 8 assists. Austin had 8 assists. Luka had 9 assists. That is 25 assists between the three of them. So, some of that is overlap. So it's not like they, created 150 points or whatever. They also grabbed, those three did. LeBron grabbed 6 boards. Austin grabbed 7 boards. Luka grabbed 8 boards. That is good for 21 rebounds, which means those guys combined for 85 points. 25 assists and 21 rebounds. Not too shabby between those three guys. And, JJ Redick apparently said after the game that he and those three guys linked up and had a conversation about the offense and about their production together and some progress that I had been getting a little nervous about as far as like the way that they play together and stuff. And they responded well to that. That meeting went well. Elsewhere, in terms of just raw production, Rui Hachimura returned to the lineup and scored 13 points, 3 of 5 from 3-point range, had 3 boards as well. Gabe Vincent was just astronomically hot, especially early in this one. He scored 15 points on 5 of 7 from the field and 4 of 6 from 3-point range specifically. He was a +9 in the game. Dorian Finney-Smith didn't start, but was a game-high +15. He scored 11 points, 3 of 7 from 3-point range, grabbed 5 boards. And yeah, it was exactly the kind of game that the Lakers really kind of desperately needed. And given the situation, given the standings, given everything, they're playing against a Memphis Grizzlies team that was similarly desperate and playing at home. The Lakers have not been very good at home. Memphis has actually been pretty damn good at home. They're 25-12 on the season, playing in Memphis. The Lakers improved to 45-29, and the Grizzlies fall now to 44-30. I'm going to pull up a live look at the standings here, and still insanely tight. You have Houston that has a bit of a gap between them and say the Lakers in the 4 seed. Houston is at 48-26. Then you have Denver at 47-28. They're a game and a half up on the Lakers. I'm trying to see here if Denver is not playing tonight. And then, the Lakers beating the Grizzlies, helps launch the Lakers up to the 4 seed. Grizzlies now sit 5th. Golden State sits 6th at 43-31. Minnesota sits 7th at 43-32. The Clippers sit 8th at 42-32. And then you have a bit of a gap. And the Mavericks and the Kings are in the 9 and 10 seed with 37-38 and 36-38 records, respectively. Phoenix, by the way, sits 11th in the conference. They are playing tonight, and they are getting dog walked by the Houston Rockets in a game that they need all the games basically from here on out. They, that's a brutal outcome. Looks like Phoenix is going to fall to 35-40 on the season. That puts them a game and a half back of Sacramento. I don't think Phoenix is going to make the play-in. And they had this is a very dark comparison, but you'll see this happen every so often with living organisms right before they die, where they'll spark up real quick, and it's the last little burst of energy that either a person has or that an animal has. I remember when my grandma on my dad's side passed, and she was like 95, so it was her time to go. But the night before she passed away, she was up and talking and joking and all of that stuff. And you're like, oh, wow, all right, maybe she turned a corner. And the nurses there at the home that she was at the clinic that she was at, said, no, enjoy this. Let this be what you remember her by, and that'll be it. Phoenix had that little run there for a bit, and I really kind of think that was like that last moment of, ooh, and their fans were like, and they were like, no, actually, no, we're on our way out. So, but still, though, that win for the Lakers over the Grizzlies is a monster one. I think that clears the tiebreakers there, so the Lakers have a full game up to help them in that regard over the Grizzlies. They remember they split with Denver, so they technically have the tiebreaker over Denver because the Lakers have a good chance at winning the division. Now, excuse me, I shouldn't have eaten Chipotle right before I went live. The Lakers do have a 2-game gap between them and the Golden State Warriors, which matters for the Nuggets, because if the Lakers win the Pacific Division, they will, they'll have that advantage over Denver, who are not going to win their division. Oklahoma City has already clinched, obviously, their division and their spot atop the Western Conference. So that's notable. And that I believe if you win your division, also you're guaranteed home court advantage in the first round. So yeah, the Lakers essentially need to win their division is a really important thing here. They need to win as many of these games as they can, and their record down the stretch is really tough. But as we kind of talked about after the Bulls game, the good news about the Lakers having a tough schedule down the final stretch here is, one, you don't necessarily know who is going to be playing as hard as they can, given the circumstances and heading into the postseason. But two, the Lakers take better teams more seriously than they take teams that they deem unworthy of their full attention. So we'll see how the Lakers close out the rest of the season here. But overall, that win over the Grizzlies was absolutely huge, given also everything that was going on. Remember, the Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins the day before, or the day of the day before that game, and that was wild. To the best of my knowledge, it seems kind of like he was losing the locker room, and he was losing John Morant specifically. And apparently the Spurs are kind of eyeing him as Pop's successor. I don't know if Greg Popovich is ever going to coach again as he recovers from that stroke. So yeah, I kind of sort of think he and the Grizzlies kind of came to the conclusion of, all right, we're done here. And he will, I would imagine, be hired in San Antonio this upcoming offseason. So, but still, they fire Taylor Jenkins. This is, by the way, the second time that the Lakers have played a team right after they fired a coach. Remember, the Sacramento Kings fired Mike Brown, and then had Doug Christie coaching that game against the Lakers the very next game. And like that, you never know how that's going to go, by the way, because sometimes teams are so excited to see a coach that they're sick of go that they play really well. And I actually kind of think we saw some of that here with Memphis. And then you add on top of that, John Morant's hamstring healing miraculously right after they fired their coach. Super. I like their GM coming out. I was like, this is totally my decision. Didn't consult any of our players, and definitely not John Morant. And oh, wow. Yeah, look at that. His hamstring's better. And Ja was out there like trying to dunk everything. He looked like he'd never hurt his hamstring ever in his life. I just that whole situation made me laugh quite a bit. But the Lakers played against John Morant, whose hamstring healed apparently overnight after the Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins, and they took care of business against a team that was extremely desperate, playing at home, got their star back, fired their coach, whose voice everybody got kind of sick of in the locker room. A lot going on there that at least offer new variables into a game that's already has some pretty high stakes in it. And not only did the Lakers win, but I think most specifically and most notably, the stars showed up. LeBron played really well. Luka played really well. Austin played really well. And those are the kinds of that's worth noting here moving forward for the Lakers. And I wrote something about what kind of trends the Lakers need to reverse over the final however many games of their season for clutch points. I'll narrate that for the lowdown tonight. But yeah, that was a huge win there for the Lakers. And again, I would even say, given JJ Redick's thoughts before the game, a huge win for Lakers Twitter. So before the game, JJ Redick. So, all right, backstory on this one is that for the last few years now, especially while the Lakers have been kind of frustrating, for the last few years now, anytime there's a player who has missed some time and then the Lakers appear on their schedule, that player, and typically stars, guys who not being, a team not having that player in the lineup, they get a lot better by having that player in the lineup. Those types of players over the last few years, while we've been kind of frustrated with the Lakers overall, those players, according to Lakers Twitter, and we've covered this quite a bit on the show as well, but those players have, wouldn't you know it, so-and-so who has been out for a dozen games or so. Oh, look at that. Their first game back is going to be against the Lakers. And, or their first game back is going to be a game or two before the Lakers. Or the other trend that I've noticed this year has been teams resting a lot of their guys the game before the Lakers and then having a full, healthy, and rested roster going into that Lakers game. And so apparently JJ Redick, I don't know if he saw people complaining about it on Twitter, but this is from our dude Mike Trudell, fellow Vikings fan. Quote, JJ Redick was asked about opposing players going against the Lakers with the expectation that Morant returns tonight. Earlier this season, Redick had his analytics group look into it, finding that 86% of opposing teams' players have been available, which was number 1 in the NBA. I don't know which is funnier, the fact that we've been right all along, or the fact that JJ Redick also maybe noticed this and had his analytics department look into it. It also, by the way, made me think of what kind of petty shit I would have my analytics department look into. It's like when you become president and you get access to all the files and you keep them at your golf resort. But like the notion of like when you get hired by the Lakers and they have finally invested in their analytics department, the kind of things that I would have them look up. I wish maybe this will be a segment that Harrison and I talk about because this is a Harrison week this week. But like it's amazing that either he saw this as a trend on Twitter, and remember he was a podcaster before this, and he was a very online person while he was covering the NBA for his pod, and then doing talking about the NBA for ESPN, and then obviously being a part of their signature lineup for NBA games for ESPN and ABC. JJ Redick was very online, and it wouldn't surprise me if JJ, there's so many follow-ups that I have to this. It's like, all right, when did this come to your attention? Is that something that you decided to look up now? Is that something that you wanted to find out about coming into this job once you took over? And I just need to know. There's so many minor details about this entire situation that I need to know. So JJ Redick, come on into the lounge and let's talk about it. But it's just amazing. It's amazing that we've been like, this is something that we've been banging the drum for and banging the table and like rolling our eyes over. And I remember having a tweet. You could probably find this on my I think it was quote tweeting Trevor Lane, who also was tweeting about like, oh, look at that. Another star just happens to be healthy going up against the Lakers. I think I quote tweeted him and I said, once upon a time, not too long ago. No, but like once upon a time, I would have been happy that a player was getting healthy because I wanted, when the Lakers were good and I felt good about those Lakers teams, I would want to see them play against a fully healthy Warriors team or, Bucks team or Clippers team or so on and so forth, right? The best teams in the league back when I thought the Lakers were really, really good. I wanted to see the Lakers tested against those teams to have a better idea how good they're going to be going into the postseason. But when we grew kind of more and more frustrated with the Lakers as Rob and Jeannie and the rest of the Lakers organization was just kind of running out the string with AD and with LeBron, that trend only got more annoying. It wasn't like, oh, cool, hell yeah, those guys. I'm happy to see that like the Wolves have Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. Hell yeah, that's great. All right, cool, let's get it. It went from that to, of course, yeah, totally. Who could have possibly seen that coming? That players just happens to get healthy against the Lakers, and it's amazing that this thing. And by the way, like as we were pointing it out, the rest of NBA Twitter, all of these other fan bases were like, "Shut up! Not everything is about you guys. Not everything is about the Lakers." Well, it turns out it is. It turns out it is. Jackasses, your favorite guys have been waiting to play against the Lakers. You see the Lakers on the calendar and they just miraculously get better. Hamstrings heal overnight. Now, in Ja Morant's case, it helps that Taylor Jenkins was fired and he didn't have to deal with him anymore. But other, normal circumstances where coaches don't get fired, and maybe, by the way, they fire coaches for the hope that that team rebounds and plays better against the Lakers with a coach that more people believe in on that team. I don't know. Remember the Kings? The Kings, now they lost that game to the Lakers right after they fired Mike Brown, but they went on a run afterward. I think they won like 8 or 9 straight. The Kings did right after firing Mike Brown. And maybe that's the next like iteration of this bit, is trying to see like which organizations also want to, take it to the Lakers and ensure that, maybe just maybe the new coach comes in, lights a fire under all of their guys' butts, and they get to beat the Lakers at home. Oh man, that's another interesting aspect of this. I wonder how many of these stars returning takes place at home against the Lakers versus on the road against the Lakers. I would imagine it's probably even there, but certainly there are a few happier crowds over the course of a regular season than any team playing against the Lakers and their team beating the Lakers. And certainly now that Luka and LeBron have teamed up, that Bulls crowd, I mean, it was a crazy end to that game. So, and that crowd was great and all that stuff. But that Bulls crowd, you would have thought that Michael Jordan just walked back through those doors and they just ripped off another 95-96 season. But yeah, it's it's hilarious that all this time, and given all of the annoyance from everybody else throughout the NBA, Lakers Twitter and this here program have been right all along. Thank you, JJ, for having your analytics department look that up. Also, to the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe that he had the analytics department look up that. What else are analytics department supposed to do other than to look up stuff? Like, I would love to have a statistician on the show. I would love, like, I know, ESPN, Stats and Info, like they have people look up stuff for them that, unearths little nuggets that either in telecast you can allude to, or you can tweet them out because they're funny stats and all that stuff. That's exactly what stat teams are supposed to do, is look up funny little things. And now him saying that he looked it up, like, I guess that's something that people have a problem with, but still, I find all of it really, really funny. And in this case, just absolutely perfect that Lakers Twitter was right. Speaking of Twitter, my mentions are a disaster today because I sent the following tweet. So I saw, let's see, where is it? Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Here it is. So first I saw Andrew Schlecht tweet out, I think it's finally time that Sam Presti wins Executive of the Year. And I quote tweeted that with Rob Pelinka not winning it the year he acquired Luka would be peak EOY. LOL. People didn't like that one. So I followed that up because of some of the response that I got. And I wrote the following. The math we do on these things is funny. When he landed AD, it was okay, yeah. So the math we do on these things is funny. When he landed AD, well, no, that was a clutch thing. Now he lands Luka, and well, technically it's this, that, or the other. Sam Presti has helped turn the team that won the most games in the West last year into the team that won the most games in the West this year, largely because the Clippers traded away a future MVP. End of the day, I followed that up with another tweet. End of the day, other execs vote on this, so Rob doesn't really stand a chance because no one other than Nico likes him very much. But man, do we do NBA awards about as dumb as we possibly could. LOL. And The overwhelming, I would say, response from people who disagreed and either quote tweeted or replied or whatever was something along the lines of, well, can we really give Rob Pelinka credit for Nico Harrison's stupidity? And it's like, the whole point is to take advantage of stupidity. Sam Presti got Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, and now it looks a lot better now because Giddey has been playing a lot better during Mickey Mouse March. But like, Presti got Alex Caruso without giving up a pick. And that's the kind of thing that he would win executive of the year for. So it's like, okay, we're giving people credit for swindling other teams, but we're not giving people credit for too thoroughly swindling other teams. Like, where are we drawing the line there? Because I also remember when Anthony Davis, when Rob finally was able to pull the trigger on the Anthony Davis trade. I don't know if people remember how chaotic the Anthony Davis negotiations were, or the Anthony Davis trade negotiations were that year prior, when Magic Johnson. Here's a funny story. I think I'm allowed to tell this story. So Magic Johnson, I'm told, at one point didn't have Dell Demp's number and had to get Dell Demp's number from a reporter who I will leave nameless for the sake of this story. And remember, Magic Johnson's first offer, because he was trying to strong arm the Pelicans after Anthony Davis was trying to essentially force his way to the Lakers, Magic Johnson was trying to completely strong arm the Pelicans. And the first offer was something ridiculous. Like, and I'm not even sure it was CBA legal. It was going to be like KCP and Rondo and maybe like it was spare parts. It was like a really ridiculous trade offer. And I'm not sure the Lakers were even including picks in that thing. And that first offer was so offensive to the New Orleans Pelicans that they essentially made the decision of like, you know what? Fine. We'll talk to you next year. We're not negotiating with you guys anymore. And those conversations between those two organizations were so contentious that it took Dell Demps getting fired and it took Magic Johnson stepping away to tweet so that David Griffin and Rob Pelinka could step in and actually land on a trade that both sides were okay-ish with. And even to this day, because of how much the Lakers gave up, there are still conversations. I remember even right after the Lakers won a championship, it was like, did Rob give up too much? Who else was he negotiating against? I remember making some of those points myself. Remember the year prior when AD demanded a trade, the year prior, the Knicks were involved, the Celtics were involved, and the Lakers were involved. The Knicks wouldn't include Kevin Knox, who I believe right now is on a freshly converted two-way contract with the Golden State Warriors. The Knicks were not willing to throw everything, push all of their chips into the middle of the table for Anthony Davis. So that gave the Lakers some leverage. Then the Celtics were not willing to include Jason Tatum in a deal for Anthony Davis. And that gave the Lakers leverage because the Lakers were willing to trade just about anybody for AD. And now part of that was because the Lakers were the most confident that AD would re-sign and re-up with the Lakers. So that certainly helped their ability to more confidently push their chips into the middle of the table. Those other teams, and specifically Boston, because of Anthony Davis's dad's comments about Boston, Boston wasn't sure that, okay, we'll trade for the guy, but we can't give up everything because we're nervous that this guy's actually going to stick around after he becomes a free agent. Will he just bolt for LA as a free agent? So anyway, look, Rob winds up making that trade for AD. And then remember, that was, that deal happened, I believe, pretty early on in the. Let me look up when Lakers trade for Anthony Davis. Now I have to refresh my memory. Trade for Anthony Davis. That was on July 6th of 2024, and then Kawhi Leonard signs Clippers. Wait, what? So 2019 was when July 6th, 2024. That's not right. Yeah, so all right. Okay, that's all right. So I do remember this right. So early on in the offseason, the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, and then that following free agency period was when Kawhi Leonard was going to be a free agent. And I remember the Lakers, by the way, I'm told were extremely confident that they were getting Kawhi Leonard. To this day, there are still people that you talk to who are like, yeah, we had him, but Kawhi's uncle wanted some stuff that the Lakers were not willing to give him and that the Clippers were willing to give him. Anyway, that offseason, when they weren't able to get Kawhi Leonard, Rob had done some work with some free agents, most specifically Danny Green. And it was like, all right, we have to stay in on the Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes. But if we don't get him, then we'll sign you to XY deal. We'll pay you a little bit more for waiting. And he did that with some other players that offseason. And the Lakers put together, by the way, a roster that would go on to win a championship that year. And the whole reason why Rob wasn't considered a serious candidate for executive of the year was because, well, technically, how much work did Rob actually do to land Anthony Davis? That was all Clutch working behind the scenes. It was Anthony Davis forcing his way to LA. Like, really, come on. Like, even when the Lakers signed LeBron James, it wasn't the Magic and Rob weren't seriously considered for executive of the year. Because even that was like, well, he just wants to come and make movies. That's not like a Lakers specific thing. And it's just so funny how we do the math on all this stuff, where if you take, like, right now, I believe Trajan Langdon will probably win the award this year because of the turnaround we've seen in Detroit, where he gets hired. They fired their coach and he hired a new coach, JB Bickerstaff, and they've literally tripled their win total from last year to now. And not saying that he hasn't done a great job, and not saying that he didn't make some key decisions in that turnaround, most specifically firing Monty Williams, who didn't even want to be there in the first place, and they completely overpaid to convince him to go there. So he's probably who's going to win it. And that's because we just value raising mediocrity a lot more than we value acquiring greatness. And like if Sam Presti wins it, it's for the Alex Caruso deal, I would imagine. And it's for signing Hartenstein, which, two good players. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, you guys have heard me here on the program talk a whole bunch about how much I miss Alex Caruso and how hurt I was over the Alex Caruso being told to take a nice long walk over to Chicago. That sucks. That moment sucked. And the Thunder looking up and valuing Alex Caruso on their way to what feels like a championship season, that hurts because the Lakers could really, really use an Alex Caruso on this team. So, yeah. And anyway, because look, we're even getting it now. Magic Johnson built that 2019, 2020 team. You want to know about Magic Johnson? I just told you guys the story over about Magic Johnson needing to ask a reporter for Dell Demp's number because he couldn't get a hold of Dell Demps to negotiate the Anthony Davis trade. Also, Magic Johnson. I think I've told this story at least behind the scenes, but I'll tell another one here. Magic Johnson did not go to work. While he was working for the Lakers, he was in the offices once or twice a week or so. He would pop in, make a whole bunch of noise, and pop out. And hilariously, Rob Pelinka would like walk the hallways to be like, "Hey, you guys seen Magic? I haven't seen Magic. Have you seen Magic?" And the whole point of him saying that was so that the bosses would know that, hey, Rob's in there doing his job. Where's Magic though? Anyway, during one of these stretches, the longest stretch where the Lakers hadn't heard from or seen Magic Johnson in the building, or he wasn't answering emails or texts or calls or anything like that. Apparently, he just decided, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go on vacation to Hawaii, as billionaires are wont to do. So Magic goes on vacation to Hawaii and is gone for upwards of a month. And you can Google this. Magic Johnson, Hawaiian bomb shelter. And there was another celebrity there. I'll Google it while I'm talking here. Magic Johnson, Hawaii bomb shelter. Ooh. Was it Tom Hanks? Jim Carrey. That's what it was. Magic went viral because this random person tweets out a picture of Magic Johnson sitting there with his legs crossed in this Hawaiian bomb shelter because of some kind of a bomb scare, bomb threat scare, false missile alert in 2018. And I reached out to some of the people that I knew at the Lakers at the time. And I was like, hey, what? And they're like, honestly, we just found out the same time you guys did where Magic Johnson has been. He's been in Hawaii all this time. Okay. And so when people are like, yeah, when people try to give Magic Johnson any kind of credit for anything during his tenure there, even LeBron, like I will say I think LeBron probably liked the story of going to work with Magic Johnson, but LeBron grew kind of frustrated with the fact that Magic just wasn't there also. And I think Magic, or LeBron really wanted to be in LA, really, really wanted to be a Laker because his like grand kind of goal at that time, because he wasn't one yet, but his grand goal at that time was to be a billionaire and eventually own an NBA team. And I think he saw the best way to raise his profile financially was to be a Laker because they've churned out so many great former players turned businessmen. So anyway, I'm not really here for Magic Johnson built this. He didn't build anything. He built. I also remember at the end of Magic Johnson's tenure, Baxter Holmes for ESPN was going to write a tell-all so revealing that Tanya Ganguly, who was covering the Lakers for the LA Times, I believe at the time, asked the Lakers on the record about this thing that was going to potentially come out about Magic Johnson's tenure there. And then Baxter's thing came out and it wasn't quite as nuclear as we kind of thought it was. I've heard that behind the scenes, there are some people who kind of stepped in and was like, let's pump the brakes on some of this stuff. Because by the way, the thing with Magic is I was having a conversation with somebody who covered the Lakers a while ago. Again, not going to say who this was, but this person didn't grow up in in Southern California, came from elsewhere to cover the Lakers. And when he arrived was basically told like, all right, there are a few people who are just kind of off limits with criticism here. Two of them were Tommy Lasorda and Magic Johnson. We just leave. If you have reporting on them, let's just let that be They are icons in the city. We leave them alone. Yeah, I think in this case, Magic got a little bit of protection from how loud that piece could have been about him. His time in LA was one of the most embarrassing tenures any GM has ever had, ever. Especially given the way that he left, where he just takes a press conference before a game and tells everybody, "I'm not going to be there for next year." And then after that, remember, he went on ESPN and he went on that long tirade about the Lakers and how called Rob a snake and all that stuff. Like, I'm Magic Johnson, great player, icon, one of LA's truest stars. However, when it comes to his impact on the Lakers as a GM and since, I'm good. I'm good on complimenting him for anything. But anyway, back to the Rob thing. The Lakers essentially, not only did they, in trading for Luka Doncic, make themselves immediate title contenders this season, but then on top of it, they didn't give up everything that they needed to. They absolutely swindled the Mavericks. And now people are kind of using that as like reason that Rob can't win the award because Nico Harrison clearly bleeped up. Okay. All right. Still, that's the point. And the fact that Rob was able to convince Nico to, all right, just keep this between us. We got to get this done together. Don't worry about talking to other teams. Also, by the way, I can't throw everything into the middle of the table here in these negotiations because we aren't sure that Luka's actually going to stick around. We couldn't talk to him. At the end of the day, are we awarding executives for making franchise-altering moves, or are we nerding out because of asset hoarding? If we only care about the latter, then yeah, great. Sam Presti is the best GM who has ever existed because nobody has ever hoarded the number of picks that he has. He also hasn't won shit. He's the guy who traded away James Harden. He's the guy who is steering the ship here for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's the guy whose major move at the deadline was to trade for Daniel Tice and waive him so that he could go to Germany, ironically also to get another pick. Thus making it, I think, keeping it competitive between the Thunder and the rest of these teams. If they don't win a championship this year and Sam Presti didn't pull the trigger on even a Cam Johnson trade, given the number of picks that they have to work with, I'm sorry. That's a giant screw up. That's a giant missed opportunity that if I was a Thunder fan, I'd be pretty pissed about. That's great that you have this crazy cache of picks that you can keep going back to and all that stuff. But if you never use them, and he literally has too many picks to be able to draft players, eventually he's going to have to cut really good talent or let talent walk because he has too many picks to be able to use all of them. So yeah, I understand. I also think Sam Presti is a very good executive, but there was the piece for The Athletic where all these executives came together and decided that Sam Presti is the best executive, not just in the NBA, but in all of American sports. Right after Andrew Friedman had just won a World Series, can we let a guy win something before we just consider him god of sports? I don't think he should win Executive of the Year this year. The most important trade he ever made was for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That wasn't this year. What are we supposed to do? Like, are we crediting Sam Presti for prior moves? Because if so, then any number of these guys have better cases for it. So in terms of job done this year, the Lakers have been able to trade for Luka Doncic, and they have traded for Dorian Finney-Smith. 2 hugely impactful trades. And they kind of sort of backed out of the Mark Williams trade and probably really helped themselves by doing so. So still, if you're just looking at wins and losses on a season, trading for Luka Doncic and not seeing or not trading Reaves in the deal, not having to trade every pick that you have from now to Kingdom Come. Yes, you traded Anthony Davis, and yes, you traded Max Christie. But at the end of the day, you got Luka Doncic, who is a top 2-ish player, top 2 to 3 player in the NBA, without giving up everything, given some of the packages that have gone out there for other top talent who aren't nearly as impactful as Luka. If that isn't executive of the year, I don't know what is. And if we're sitting here saying like, well, it doesn't count because of X, Y, or Z, then, then none of these awards matter. And they don't, because of the track record of some. Coach of the year doesn't matter because Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, I think, have a combined 2, maybe a couple more. And both of those guys have been in the league for 30-something combined years, 30-plus combined years. MVP can't be all that important because LeBron hasn't won it all the time. Kobe and Shaq have as many MVPs between them as Steve Nash does by himself. So MVP is worthless. 6th man of the year is which player scores the most off of the bench. Okay. All right. Doesn't matter who is more impactful. Cool. All right. Defensive player of the year has basically, Anthony Davis hasn't won in a defensive player of the year. Meanwhile, every time he played against Jaren Jackson Jr., who was defensive player of the year, he shoved him in a locker. Every time Rudy Gobert won his defensive players of the year, eventually that fan base that he was playing for was kind of like, oh, I don't really feel all that comfortable with him being out there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't particularly care about NBA awards, but and I think this is a good example why I think the awards are such a farce, because we basically have this goalpost that we get to move wherever we want to move it based on how much we like somebody or how much we like this team. It's so funny how Alex Caruso just miraculously becomes a first-team All-NBA defender when the Lakers had been telling you guys, yeah, he's that good. While he was a Laker, he finally gets that recognition when he goes to Chicago. So, yeah. And by the way, this isn't even me saying I think Rob Pelinka is the best executive in the sport. I think Sam Presti is the best executive in the sport. But that's a different conversation than best executive in the sport and executive who had the best year. Executive who had the best year, it like that. If that's how you're going to award MVP, if that's how you're going to award coach of the year, if that's how you're going to do all these other ones, then you got to be consistent and at least hand out that award that way with this one. But we can't even be consistent. So, yeah, like he's not going to win it. And the biggest reason he's not going to win it, like I said on Twitter earlier today, is because it's voted on by other executives, which is super weird. I don't understand why players' money gets impacted by media votes and all that stuff, and executives don't get held to that same standard. But in this case, these other executives, have such hard-ons for asset hoarding that's what they're most focused on, when the whole point of all of this is to go out and hope that the whole point in hoarding those assets and hoarding draft picks is so that maybe you can use one of those draft picks. The whole point of tanking is to be able to get somebody like Luka. The Lakers did get somebody like Luka. They got somebody like Anthony Davis, and now twice they have this specific hardware to show for it, when they have the most important hardware to show for the Anthony Davis thing And I just don't know what the point. Like I just don't know what the point of any of these awards are if we can't even be consistent in the stupidity that we hand them out. Boy, I don't think I'm going to have too much room here to answer all of your guys' questions. I do have a super comment, so I'll go ahead and start with that one. It comes in from Amon Brar, who writes, "What's up, Anthony? Shams went on a pod recently and said the Lakers and Mavs were talking a different trade, and ultimately the player wasn't involved. Do you know what the player/trade was?" It could be anything. It could be anything from I'd have to hear on the pod what it was. Oh, it might have been the pod where he talked about breaking the trade, the Luka trade. I'd have to hear it and get a sense of maybe what he's talking about to be able to look into it. I do believe the Lakers had some interest in like Gafford briefly, but I don't know that ever went anywhere. Once the Luka thing became a possibility, that was the only thing that the Lakers were ever focused on. And until that had some kind of a resolution, any talks between the Lakers and Mavericks just kind of were put on the back burner. So I'll look into it, Amon, who that might have been about. But I believe just off the top of my head, it's Gafford. Because the Mavericks eventually going to have to pay like Lively, and you have Gafford, and then you had Kleba, who now Kleba's contract comes off of the books after next season, so you have that benefit too. But I believe that there was some talks for the Lakers to land Gafford and for the Mavericks to balance out their roster a little bit. But once Luka became a talking point, that was the only conversation that the Lakers and Mavericks were having. All right. Let's go. Yeah. I'll like I said, I'll go and try to find that pod and hear what Sean's was talking about there. But yeah, as it stands right now, I believe it was Gafford if it was anybody. All right. Let's go with, I'm just going to look. I'm quickly scanning some of the comments here to see if there's, okay, user 2427 asking, is Austin the best third option in Lakers history? That's a good question. So third options, you would have, James Worthy. I think James Worthy is it. I don't think Austin compared to his peers is as good as James Worthy was compared to his peers. James Worthy, future Hall of Famer, Finals MVP. That's the answer there. From there, I think Austin is in that conversation with LO. LO was won a six man of the year. The basketball that the Lakers would play when it was LO and Powell on the court with Kobe was incredible. The passing that you saw in the front court between LO and Powell was just so much fun to watch. That's actually a fun team to think about how they would fit in the modern era of basketball as we return to size mattering a little bit. But that was, I would say Austin is in that conversation with LO, but I don't think he's up there with James Worthy right now. Doesn't mean, can Austin get to Hall of Fame level? I don't think he can. We'll see. Maybe he plays on an Olympic team. Maybe the Lakers win a couple championships. Maybe he's an all-star. Then I would say he has a chance at it, but still, like, James Worthy is big game James, man. I would, is a long way to go for Austin. And I like Austin a bunch, but it's a long way to go for him to be in that James Worthy type conversation. Let's go here. FYI, the Suns are the worst team I've ever seen. Yep, I would agree. Not the worst team, but they are the greatest underachievers in, I think, basketball history. All right, let's go with I don't know who which comment you're talking about here, Benoit. I don't know who you're talking about. All right. Yeah, Vegas Dev, just like Max Christie, all of a sudden became this super exciting young player when, again, I'd been telling people about that for a long time. Let's see. Bashir, ideal route you think the team should take this offseason? What position should be traded for and what should be sought after in free agency? Well, first and foremost, they do need to at least bolster the depth chart at center where there isn't such a steep decline in ability from the center spot. And ideally, you upgrade at center and Jackson becomes your center depth. That would be great. I'm really curious what Jackson's market is going to be after this season, to where like he is playing legitimately good basketball now. And I'm kind of curious how many teams are going to pursue Jackson, knowing how much easier life is made for him by Luka, by LeBron, by Austin. So if you can get a better center than Jackson and Jackson becomes your center depth, that'd be great. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm really curious how it's going to go, the Luka Austin backcourt in the postseason. The Lakers have consistently really struggled with smaller, quicker point guards who can score at all three levels, get to the rim, mid range, and then obviously from behind the line. And I kind of wonder if it's worth pursuing a player who is better than Austin. And it's that list is getting shorter, by the way. So that's kind of tricky, obviously. But a player who is maybe a little bit better than Austin, who would therefore move Austin into a 6-man role that I think he would absolutely kill it in. And he's been fantastic as a starter this year too, by the way, just to be absolutely clear. But I do kind of wonder if the Lakers, after you figure out the center spot, maybe you bolster your wing rotation, you move Vando for somebody who you can more confidently play. Although Vando's contract is not going to be very highly sought after this season. So, or this offseason. But I do kind of wonder if you can go out and get somebody who moves Austin to a 6-man role, not by way of, convincing yourself that's where Austin should be, but by literally going out and getting a player better than Austin at that point guard spot and then kind of going from there. The problem is I just don't know if that player is available. And if I don't think, like, given how great Luka and Austin have been, even in this short amount of time together, given how great they have looked, I don't think it's worth it for you to use resources on that. Like, I think going out, solidifying your wing rotation, going out, getting a better center, those I think are the two top things that you got to do. And then if you have some extra resources there, maybe you take a look at your guard depth. But I am kind of curious, like if you could get peak Caruso and put him next to Luka, so you have better point of attack defense and a point of attack defender who can actually fit with Austin too. Then now you're really cooking with lighter fluid. And that guard rotation is damn near perfect. But the problem is, short of Karnisovas losing his mind again and trading Caruso for Josh Giddey, which again, the trade looks a little bit better now, blah, 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 blah. But it's going to be very difficult to find that player. So I think the top priority is going to be the center spot, and then you kind of go from there. All right. Can we steal Triple J? Asks I don't know if it's Jan. I'm guessing it's Jan. But the getting Triple J, I do think that the Grizzlies are about to blow it up. And I don't think that features moving Triple J quite yet. I think they'll trade John Morant and just have Des Bane be their starting point guard. And then, maybe you get like a better shooting guard or a better wing. The thing is, Desmond Bane, Triple J, they're all nice players, but none of them are good enough for the Grizzlies to be as good as I think they think they're supposed to be. I think they all fall about 5 to 10% short of where they need to be. And that's their problem. It's not a Jenkins thing. It's not a depth thing. It's not a front office thing. It's a star thing. I think John Morant is a lot more fun than he is impactful. I think Desmond Bane, if he was just handed the reins as a starting point guard and you use John Morant to supplement the talent around Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., that roster would make a lot more sense. But it is also a tough call because that city loves John Morant. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But can they steal Triple J? I don't think he'll be available this summer. I think first thing they would look to do is trade Ja. And then if that doesn't work, then they blow it up and then they try to improve via the draft. And then at that point, then you could probably, maybe you can maybe go out and get Jaren Jackson Jr. But I like Jaren. He's just so dumb with his fouls, though. It's really hard to look past that. All right. That is, I think that's going to do it here for this nice long Sunday night episode of the Lounge. I'm going to break this up. And then, like I said earlier, I'll narrate that piece that I wrote for Clutch Points. And that'll be for your lowdown tomorrow. We'll also do a little bit of previewing the game tomorrow night against the Houston. Well, second night of a back-to-back, fortunately for the Lakers. Now, unfortunately for the Lakers, Houston hasn't had to care about this game against Phoenix for all of it, so they'll be nice and rested. But yeah, we'll go ahead and preview that a little bit, narrate that piece that I wrote for Clutch Points, and send you guys off into the week. So until then, until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your evening, make somebody else's, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Bye, everyone.